What if events went differently in The Amazing Spider-Man 2? What if Peter Parker cured Harry Osborn's disease? Well, welcome back, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, to a brand new Marvel's What If episode. And in today's episode, we're going to be continuing the storyline, the juicy storyline. Is Harry Osborn going to become Spider-Man? What the heck is going on? Again, thank you so much for the amazing support on the channel. If you guys do enjoy these videos, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. But that being said, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, let's dive into part 2 of this insane Marvel's What If. Peter grabbed Harry and told him to hold on. Harry just looked at Peter while the explosion was counting to 0. There was no time left. If Harry was going to survive this, then Peter's blood would be the final thing that might just save his life. Peter looked at options and he didn't see much. He turned his head up to see a vent. This was their only chance. Peter and Harry crawled through the vent at the countdown, as the countdown was counting for the explosion to go off. Peter and Harry made their way out of the vent in time and dropped down from the shaft into where the elevator was. But it was all blocked off and there wasn't anywhere to go. Peter opened the door with his bare hands as he struggled. 10 seconds were left on the countdown. Harry told Peter to move faster. He pulled and pressed as hard as he could. The lock clicked, and Spider-Man forced the doors to open. Everything felt like slow motion as the explosion went off. Peter then threw Harry and used his webs. Harry went 25 feet up from the explosion. Harry's face snapped back as he saw Peter engulfed in the flames. Peter looked on and smiled through his mask. Although he might be dead, he took one last look at Harry, who might have a chance at surviving. The flames stopped moments later as Peter's body laid still. Harry used the fire escape to slowly move back down to the bottom floor. He saw Peter's body lying there, and Harry cried out. He begged for Peter to move. He kneeled beside Peter's body, his head down with tears streaming down his face. "Peter, wake up, man, please," Harry said, but it was to no use. Peter was dead. Harry thanked Peter for saving him. Harry looked around at the destruction around the room, and then looked around to see the exosuit that was near the debris. He had an idea and began dragging Peter's body near the suit. He turned it on as the suit began to heal Peter's body. Parker jolted up and screamed, "Harry!" Peter said as he woke up. Harry cried as he saw the suit healing all of Peter's wounds. He couldn't believe his eyes. "What happened?" Peter said, as he started breathing rapidly. Harry told Peter that he saw the suit, so he tried to save his life. Peter thanked Harry as Peter began taking the suit off of him. "Wow, this really fixed my back," Peter said as Harry smiled. The two went in for a hug as Harry asked, "What's next?" "We need to do more tests to see how the blood is working in your system," Peter said. Peter looked around and pointed at an opening to the exit. The two of them were able to get out of the building unnoticed. Peter realized what had happened. Peter swung near a building to see what happened on the news. There was a large TV that showcased the Daily Bugle. A reporter appeared before everyone throughout the city, as they had one of the investors in Oscorp come on the TV to reveal the crimes Harry Osborn had committed, revealing everything to the public. Osborn screamed and told Peter they gotta do something. He needs to get his company back. Peter told Harry to hold off right now. As much as they would like to go back in there and take his company back, they can't right now. We gotta find out what's going on, and what's going on with Max, Peter said. We gotta save him. Harry turned his head and realized the situation at hand. If they could get to Max Dillon, they might be able to get him to say Harry didn't do it. Peter wanted to save Max Dillon because he was an innocent person who was being tortured at Ravencroft. If they could save him, they might be able to fix all of this. Peter, you need me on this one, please. Peter turned towards Harry. He wanted him to come with him, but Peter turned. It's too dangerous, Harry. You could get hurt. I need you to stay here for a bit. Peter pulled out a tracking device. It was a little spider, and he handed it to Harry. So, if anything happens, Peter knows where he is at all times. Harry nodded his head as Peter jumped off the building rooftop, swinging throughout the city. Harry turned around, turning his attention back to the news as it spread across the world like wildfire. He was shocked at what happened. Harry began pacing around, and suddenly his arm and wounds were healing themselves. Harry looked at his hands as they began reverting back as if nothing ever happened. Spider-Man, thank you, he said. Harry looked around, wondering if he could get off the building. He looked straight down to see the height, and it wasn't so bad after all. He was confused because he was afraid of heights, and he kept looking. He started feeling different. His body began changing. As soon as he got Peter's blood, although they tried to do more tests, Peter thought that the blood would work, and Harry smiled, as he was right the entire time. Now what? He said, as he looked across the city, having an idea. Harry turned around and punched a wall with his fist, and his fist went right through the wall, like butter. He then turned and looked at his hands, as Harry began thinking to himself, what if I jump off this building? He then attempted it, as people below the streets saw a man jumping from building to building. Harry jumped across a large building and did a front flip, landing on his 2 legs. He was shocked. He then surveyed the situation. He was going to take Oscorp with force, even if he had to. But first he needed to wait for Peter. Harry had an insurance policy. If he couldn't get Max Dillon to help them, then he would force himself back in. Nothing was going to stop him, he thought to himself. Harry smiled. At the same time, Peter was swinging to Ravencroft. He took out the guards silently, one by one, and began making his way through the facility. Spider-Man continued to walk past the jail cells. Parker stopped at one of them and turned his head. He looked over. "Hello, Peter," the man said. Peter looked to his right side and saw an old man sitting in his cell. "Connors," Peter said, as Peter continued walking past to find Max Dillon. He saw guards and began hitting all of them in the hallway. Parker saw 6 of them, and he began using his webs. He pulled one towards him and broke his nose. Another guard was about to tase him, but he broke his wrist. Spider-Man used the body of the first guard as a human shield, and the Volts fired up the man as he began to scream in pain. Spider-Man then took the guard and threw him at the others, knocking them out one by one. Parker asked one of the guards where Electro was, but he was interrupted by a doctor who told Spider-Man that he was in room A11B and told him to follow. "You're hurting these people," Spider-Man said. The doc followed up by saying, "They're not people." Spider-Man used his web and twisted his leg before knocking him out. That comment pissed Peter off, and he continued walking down the corridors until he saw a large containment unit. He looked to see that this was the same one that was in the video. He pressed the large button. Large numbers of water came out as Electro was almost unconscious. The table from the water held up Electro. He was tied to the table, and he couldn't get out. His body was just lying there in defeat. Peter couldn't believe it. "Oh my god, Max," Spider-Man said. Electro woke up in shock to see Spider-Man standing before him. "Spider-Man," Electro said. "Of course it's me, Max. You're my eyes and ears. I came to save you, but I need you to not get in trouble this time," Spider-Man said. Electro grinned and asked what he wanted from him. "I'm saving you, Max." Electro began thinking about everything that happened and realized that maybe he was in the wrong this entire time. He apologized to Spider-Man for attacking him, but Spider-Man said not to worry because he was misunderstood. Spider-Man asked Max for help. He revealed that Norman Osborn had covered up his incident up in the Special Projects files. He told Max that he saved Harry's life, and that at the same time they framed Harry for covering up the incident. Max then asked if that's why he came here. Spider-Man said yes and no, and this made Max pissed, as he didn't want to be used. He told Spider-Man that it was far too late for him. Although he used to love Spider-Man, those days were gone, and he would forever be this monster. Spider-Man then saw the room beginning to shake, as Electro put aside everything and told Spider-Man that it wasn't personal, as he screamed. He broke out of his restraints, and Spider-Man turned around to see Electro angry, more than he ever was before. Before Spider-Man could move to dodge an attack, Electro extended his hand out and began raining torrents of electricity against Spider-Man. Peter screamed in pain. I want to help you," he said. "No, you don't. You want to help your friend and yourself, you fucking con," Electro said as he pushed his hands, and a massive wave, 8 feet, spread wide across the room and hit Spider-Man directly in the chest. Peter looked up before being electrocuted more. "You're gonna die now," Electro said as bolts kept shooting out of his hands. Spider-Man used his webs to pull the containment unit over it to try and get the water towards Electro. But Electro saw this and he was too fast. He teleported away out of thin air. He was gone. Spider-Man slowly got up and looked at his costume. It was all black and damaged to the bone. He swung outside and began looking at the clouds. A massive electrical storm was in the air. "What have I done?" Peter said, as he began swinging through the city. Parker immediately called Harry. Harry picked up the phone and told Peter about his powers. Peter paused for a moment. He couldn't believe it. He said he was coming as soon as possible, and before Harry could do anything, Peter swung across the building. Harry asked what was wrong, and Peter pointed. There was a massive Electro, whose face covered nearly half the sky. "I'm assuming your plan didn't work out, Pete." "Yeah, I tried my best," he said, and as those two were shocked, Peter said, "You got powers now." Harry then demonstrated by punching a wall with ease. There wasn't much time to talk. As much as Peter was happy about this, he told Harry that they needed to stop Electro. If Electro shuts down the power grid, they'd be screwed. Harry nodded and realized the situation, that maybe he could help, and Peter told him no. He didn't want Harry getting hurt, and as much as he had the powers, He still believed Harry could be badly injured. "Harry, I want to help you. I really, really do. But you have no experience in this. I can't let you die." "I know, Pete. So what's next?" "I'll confront him. He's at the power grid, and I think I know what he's planning," Peter said. "I'll see you in a bit, Pete," Harry said, and Peter nodded his head. Peter swung through the city. Gwen, who was in her taxi after a meeting, saw Peter swinging towards the storm. She looked to see the horrifying face of Electro appearing in the sky. She then told the cab to follow Spider-Man. She then called Peter's phone, and he looked to see it was Gwen. "Hey, I'm a little busy right now. I'm in a pickle. What's up?" "Peter, what's going on?" Peter explained to her what happened, and what happened with Harry and Electro. He told her to stay calm, but she explained that she could try and help him with his web shooting problems. "Peter, if you're facing him alone, you're not going to stand a chance." "Peter, you need my help," she said. "I love you. I'm sorry," Peter said as he hung up the phone. He began monologuing how he couldn't let her in on this. Electro would kill her. He needed to protect his friends, even if it meant he died in battle for them. Parker swung towards the power grid. The grid was freshly new, and it was the perfect spot for Electro to cause havoc across the city. Peter knew of the devastating effects a power outage would cause the city, and he couldn't let this happen. "You're too late, Spider-Man. I'm a god now." Peter dropped below to face down Electro, who stood still in the sky. "A god named Sparkles?" Spider-Man said as he dodged a bullet and aimed his webs towards a water pipe. "Not this time." This time, a win, shocking Spider-Man until he couldn't move. Electro hit him backwards. His body hit the ground with a large thud. He tried to wake up, but another torrent of lightning hit his body. "I'll kill you, Spider-Man," Electro said loudly. "I'll take all the energy away from this city." Electro moved towards the middle of the power grid and began sucking most of the energy away. At the same time, Harry Osborn saw the storm from a distance and saw a cab coming towards the entrance of the power grid area. He jumped down and scared Gwen. "Harry," she said. "Pete must have told you he's Spider-Man." She rolled her eyes and she got out of the cab. The cab driver drove away as the chaos was still ensuing. As the two of them stood at the entranceway, Gwen told Harry that they gotta help him before it's too late. "What can I do?" Harry asked, while Gwen just looked at Harry and didn't say anything. She ran towards a machine across from the battle. If they reverse the energy, they might be able to stop Electro. Harry looked on as Electro kept teleporting in 4 different directions, at the same time hitting Peter over and over again until Peter fell to his knees. Harry screamed to Gwen, "We have to help him!" This isn't going to work. Harry stopped and stood still as he witnessed Electro shooting a massive bolt as Peter hit the ground so far that it caused an explosion and overload over the grid. "No," Harry said, as him and Gwen looked outside. Peter flew 10 feet across the ground. His body rolled as his costume was nearly half destroyed. "Harry," Gwen said as Harry ran outside towards Electro. Electro was surprised at the turn of events. He saw Harry and Gwen from behind. "I'll frickin' kill you," he said. Electro smiled and he finally had Harry right where he wanted him. And he sprayed the sky with lightning, but Harry dodged the attack and did a front flip over Electro and landed on the water pipe. While Peter smiled, he used his web to break it, causing the water to fall on top of Electro. Electro was distracted and he was shocked, no pun intended, as Harry jumped off of the pipe and began punching him in the face. Electro fell to the ground stunned. While the two were fighting, Gwen grabbed Peter, who had shrapnel from the explosion in his legs. She dragged him to the side and kissed him. Peter said, I have to help Harry. Harry in the distance kept punching Electro as his eyes went manic. Harry shot webs that contained blood in them and started webbing up Electro. Electro tried to fight back, but the onslaught was too much. Punch after punch after punch was raining down towards Electro's face. Peter looked at this in shock, and he wanted to swing to help, but he couldn't walk too much. Harry began to see that Electro was going to recharge, but before he could do anything, Harry webbed Electro to the puddle of water and proceeded to choke his neck. He used his webs, and Gwen looked at Harry. He understood what he needed to do, and they overloaded Electro. He didn't blow up this time. This time, Electro's body fell to the ground. His body lied there. You're going to help me, or I'm going to kill you, Harry said to Electro, who couldn't move. Harry, then out of pure instinct, spit out a green substance out of his mouth, and it burned Electro across the face. It completely melted Electro's skin. He began screaming in pain, but then it stopped. He was dead. Peter yelled out to Harry. He tried to get up to his feet as he saw Electro dead. Harry, what are you doing? He said. Harry then turned around to reveal the 6 eyes spread on top of his forehead. Oh God, Peter said. Peter, help me, he tried to let out a scream before Harry fell on his back. He began turning, spinning around, and Peter couldn't believe it. He had 4 arms with a spider-like face. The spider looked at Peter and Gwen, who stood still in shock. Gwen, I need you to leave right now, he said. Right when Peter said this, a web shot at Gwen, and she got pushed into the door. Peter slowly started walking towards the monster. Harry, don't do this, he said, but the monster was relentless and attacked Spider-Man. Peter dodged the monster, who tried to fly into him. Spider-Man jumped. Spider-Man punched the man-spider in the face, over and over as tears streamed down his face. Harry, don't do this. This isn't you. What are you doing? Harry then threw Peter into one of the power grids that caused him to get shocked. His body fell to the ground as Peter slumped to his side. The man-spider started walking towards Gwen. Parker crawled, trying to get to his feet. He used the last of his webs on Man-Spider's back, pulling him away, just in time as Gwen ran out of the way. Man-Spider slowly turned around to face Peter, and Peter readied himself. His 2 fists were raised in the air, and Man-Spider and Spider-Man fought. Peter used his experience, and he had the upper hand. He used his webs to hold Man-Spider's legs to the ground and punched him over and over again. He saw Gwen, and then he saw Harry. He kept punching him. Harry, this isn't you, he said. Peter kept punching over and over, as the monster began to revert back to Harry. Peter took his fist, and it was shaking. He just stood there still. He wanted to kill Harry, but he stopped himself. He looked at his hands. He saw the blood dripping down his body, and he saw the blood of Harry not moving and called for Gwen. The 2 of them looked at him. Harry, I'm so sorry. Harry opened his eyes. He had a swollen and fat eye. It's okay, he said. Thank God, Gwen said as the 3 of them stood still. Harry lying on the ground in a pool of his own blood, while Peter was kneeling beside his body on top of him, and Gwen sat beside him. Peter got off of Harry. Gwen and Peter grabbed Harry. As the two of them helped him up, they walked in the sunset. "Harry, I promise I will do everything in my power to save you." Harry turned his head up with tears in his eyes as they continued to all limp, walking in the sunset. The city was safe. Harry was now out of Oscorp, but it didn't matter because he told Peter he would do everything in his power to destroy that company. Peter and Gwen were still together, and they believed that if they could help Harry with the treatment, he might be able to be saved from the man-spider disease. Peter sat on his chair, looking at the DNA of Harry, and began working alongside Harry. Harry told Pete to take a look at this for a moment. He turned his head to see a costume that looked just like his, with a large spider emblem on it. "I love it," Peter said, as the two continued to work. And that is going to be it for What If Peter Parker Cured Harry Osborn in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now you guys are probably wondering why I ended up redoing this What If scenario, and I came up with a way better idea and I really wanted to do something new. So again, I cannot thank you enough for the latest support. It really means the world to me. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. If you guys like how I spread this series across different parts, it really means a lot because I'm trying to do a lot more on this channel, and if that is, bringing you guys back in, wanting more, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get this channel back up and running, because I do want to admit, guys, I haven't really been on my A game recently throughout 2023, so whether you're seeing this in 2023 or 2024, this video was recorded 4 days before Christmas Eve, and I really enjoyed writing this. This was probably one of my favorite what ifs throughout the year, just because I really was able to twist and turn the storyline. Like, imagine having Spider-Man and Harry at the same time as the confrontation between, Harry being framed. I think that's just amazing, and having Peter just frickin' knock everybody out was another thing that I really wanted to add to this, showing that, Peter's there for his friends. He has an opportunity that is set out to him, that is literally put in front of him, where he can save a life. He didn't have that opportunity with Uncle Ben, so having that again was really amazing. So again, thank you so much for tuning into today's video, and if you guys do enjoy these what ifs, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on, so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. Would you guys like to see a part 2 where Harry Osborn becomes Spider-Man within the series, and he's also the Man-Spider? So I think we're gonna keep the Man-Spider element to Harry's character and give him kind of like the Incredible Hulk power, where if he gets really angry, he can turn into the Man-Spider. So again, that's something that I really want to do. Thank you so much for tuning in. I highly appreciate all the latest support. It really, really means a lot. Do make sure to follow my Instagram, Twitter, my Reddit page, everywhere in between. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and have a wonderful day. Peace out.